Picture the exact day you finally hit your number, the savings goal you'd been chasing for years, enough to actually start investing for real. You'd expect that to feel like the finish line. It's actually closer to the starting gun on a dozen bad decisions. Not because the money is cursed, because of what happens inside your head the moment you have it. There are 7 ways that exact moment works against you, and almost nobody sees a single one of them coming. Let's start with the one that hits first. Here's something that should worry you. The moment you finally have money, you stop thinking like a beginner. For years, you were cautious. You researched everything. You asked questions. You doubted yourself. Then, the number in your account finally looks real and something flips. You start to feel like you've earned the right to trust your own instincts. Not because you got smarter, because you got richer. This is exactly the moment overconfidence walks in the door. Behavioral economists have a name for it, the house money effect. Once people feel they're playing with extra money, they take risks they'd never take with money they worked hard for. Except this isn't extra money. It's the money you waited years to have. And the version of you making decisions with it isn't the careful saver who built it. It's a new person entirely, one who hasn't been tested yet, about to make the biggest financial decision of their life using confidence they haven't actually earned. And confidence is the easy trap. There's a second one hiding right behind it. This is the trap that quietly costs people the most money. Think about when people actually start investing. Not when the market is calm, not when prices are low. Almost always, it's after they've heard about it working for someone else, after the market's already been climbing for months, after every headline is saying how much money everyone else made. That's usually the exact moment you finally have the money to join in. You didn't choose that timing. The timing chose you, because confidence to invest builds slowly, at the same pace prices do. By the time you feel ready, the easy gains are already gone. Studies on investor behavior show this pattern again and again. Money floods into markets right before they cool off and drains out right before they recover. Not because people are bad at investing, because the feeling of being ready always arrives late. So the money you finally have isn't arriving at a random time. It's arriving at exactly the time your instincts are least reliable. And here's where it gets worse. Once you actually have the money in hand, you don't just invest it slowly. You dump it all in at once. Here's the number nobody explains to first-time investors. When you invest a large amount in a single moment, that one decision carries the weight of years of saving. If that single day happens to land near a market peak, there's no averaging it out, no history of buying at different prices to soften the blow. Just one number invested on one day, exposed to whatever the market does next. Compare that to investing smaller amounts steadily over months or years. Some money lands high, some lands low. The average smooths itself out over time. But when you've been waiting for the money for years, patience runs out the moment it finally arrives. You don't want to wait any longer to start, so you put it all in at once on the very day your patience finally broke. This isn't a hypothetical. This is the most common first mistake serious investors make. Not picking the wrong investment, picking the wrong moment to go all in. Financial researchers have run this exact comparison for decades. Lump sum investing does technically win more often than spreading it out, if you average across every possible starting point in history. But that average hides the years that actually matter to a real person. It hides the specific, unlucky timing of putting everything in right before a downturn, with no cushion, no second entry point, and no experience to fall back on. Averages are comforting in a spreadsheet. They are not comforting when it's your only shot and it happens to land badly. And the reason it keeps happening isn't bad luck. It's because nobody prepared you for what comes next. Think about how you learned every other skill in your life. Small stakes first, mistakes that didn't cost much, practice before the moment that actually mattered. Investing usually works the opposite way. Most people's first real investing decision happens with the largest sum of money they've ever had. Not a small test amount, not a low-stakes trial run. The full amount on day one with zero practical experience behind it. You wouldn't drive a car for the first time on a highway during rush hour, but that's exactly what happens with money. Years of saving discipline built the amount. Zero decisions were made about what to do with it once it arrived. So when the moment comes, you're not drawing on experience, you're drawing on whatever article you read last week, whatever a friend mentioned at dinner, whatever felt confident in the moment. The stakes are at their highest exactly when your experience is at its lowest. And if that wasn't enough pressure already, something else shows up at the exact same time. The money finally arrives, and so does everyone else's plan for it. Suddenly, there's a reason to upgrade the car, a wedding that needs a bigger budget, a home renovation that's been waiting for this exact moment. None of these are wrong decisions on their own, but they all compete for the same capital at the same moment. Your investing decision was supposed to happen. The money you meant to invest slowly turns into the money that funds everything else that's been on hold. By the time you actually sit down to invest, it's not the full amount anymore. It's whatever's left after life got there first. And the version that's left often gets invested carelessly because it feels smaller, less important, easier to gamble with. This is how house money thinking sneaks back in through a side door. The real amount you had gets scattered across a dozen decisions, each one feeling reasonable on its own, none of them coordinated with the others. And the leftover gets treated like it barely matters, right when it needed the most care. But even if you protect the money from your own spending, there's one more group waiting to get their hands on your decision. The moment people find out you finally have money to invest, everyone becomes an expert. Family members who've never invested a rupee, dollar, or euro in their life suddenly have strong opinions. Friends forward you screenshots of what worked for them. Someone online is always selling the next guaranteed thing. And you, standing at the biggest financial decision of your life so far, have no filter built yet to know who to actually listen to. This is where decision paralysis creeps in. Too many voices, too many options, not enough conviction of your own. Some people freeze completely and let the money sit uninvested for years. Others swing the opposite way and follow whoever sounded the most confident, not the most correct. Neither path was your decision. It was whoever got to you first, loudest, or most convincingly. And this is the part almost nobody talks about. The cost of all this hesitation and confusion isn't measured in bad investments. It's measured in something much quieter. While you're figuring out who to trust, what to buy, and how much to risk, the clock that actually builds wealth keeps running without you. Compounding doesn't wait for you to feel ready. Every year you delay because the timing didn't feel right is a year that can never be added back. Money invested a decade before you finally had enough would have had a decade more to grow. Instead, most people wait until the amount feels significant enough to take seriously, and by then they've usually lost more to waiting than they'll ever admit to gaining from timing it right. Run the simple version of this math for yourself. Two people invest the exact same total amount over their lifetime. One starts small, years earlier before they felt ready. The other waits until the amount feels substantial, then starts all at once. The one who started earlier, with less, almost always ends up ahead. Not because they picked better investments, because their money had more time working before their confidence caught up to their bank balance. The irony is brutal. The exact moment that feels the safest to finally start, because you finally have real money, is often the moment that costs you the most, in confidence, in lump sum risk, in distractions, in bad advice, and in years already gone. So what's actually being said here? None of this means you shouldn't invest once you have the money. It means the money was never the missing ingredient. People who build wealth well don't wait for a large amount to appear and then figure out what to do with it. They decide how they'll invest long before the money shows up. Small amounts, invested on a schedule, whether the market feels exciting or terrifying. By the time real money arrives, there's no scramble, no flood of opinions changing your mind, no single risky decision carrying all the weight, just a habit that was already running, quietly, long before anyone was watching. The best time to invest was never a specific amount of money, it was the decision you made before you had it. Build that first.